What's going on, guys, and welcome to Highly and Alph Gaming. I'm your host, Alph, and it's time to review Pikmin 2. If you didn't see my Pikmin 1 review, click the card in the corner because I talk a good amount about Pikmin 1 in this review, but if you have seen my Pikmin 1 review, let's not waste any time. As you remember, in the first Pikmin game, the plot was very grim. It was the story of a stranded alien fighting for his life on a cold, unforgiving planet with the help of a bunch of helpless refugees, trying desperately to repair his ship and return home. In the game's sequel, the same alien dude comes back with his buddy to find all these wacky little pieces of doohickey junk to help pay off his company's debt. Looking only at the game's premises, Pikmin 2 is definitely a much lighter experience than Pikmin in its tone, but that certainly doesn't mean this is a baby game or anything. The actual levels in Pikmin 2 are very similar to those in Pikmin 1, only you're searching for treasure instead of ship parts. The treasures you find are mainly everyday human items, and they're all worth different values, with each artifact being appraised by the robot in your ship as you find it. Your boss sent you here to bring back treasures that can be sold for a total of 10,000 Pokos, the Hakataitian currency, and that's what you'll need to spend the whole game doing. Finding treasure to pay off the company's debt. It's not just Olimar and the Pikmin this time around, though, because your boss also sent along your subordinate, Louie, to help out. Louie functions identically to Olimar, only he's blue instead of red, and his head is shaped like a bean. You switch between playing as Olimar and Louie at the press of a button, and while it's not hugely different, having Louie along is certainly helpful. It can be useful to have another character with his own squad of Pikmin somewhere across the map if you're trying to multitask, but it's really just a convenience, as it doesn't come up a lot and is never required. In addition to a new team member, you also get a couple of new Pikmin types, Purple and White Pikmin. Purple Pikmin are really heavy and can carry objects with the strength of 10 normal Pikmin, and White Pikmin are immune to this weird poison mist stuff. White Pikmin also poison enemies if they get eaten, but that's not really important. The 3 Pikmin types from the first game return, though this time the Yellow Pikmin have the added benefit of being immune to electricity and its related attacks. A problem you may remember that I had with the first Pikmin game was the issues with Pikmin control and ease of Pikmin death, and I'm happy to say that, for the most part, both those issues have been fixed. While they still aren't perfect, the Pikmin in Pikmin 2 are much better listeners than they used to be, and they pretty much always stay in your party unless you dismiss them. As for ease of death, Pikmin 2 is also much more lenient. It's much harder to lose whole swaths of Pikmin to a single enemy, but the game still has its moments of attempted genocide. Overall, though, the controls and core mechanics are much cleaner, and that's exactly what I would expect in any sequel. The treasure hunting, new Pikmin types, and improved Pikmin control are all great, but I know what you guys are thinking. The video title says that Pikmin 2 has the growing pains of the Pikmin franchise. What's that supposed to mean? Well, why don't I tell you that right now? My first issue with Pikmin 2's design comes in the main worlds and how they compare to those in the first Pikmin game. In Pikmin 1, there were 4 levels excluding the final trial, and all of them were big, expansive areas littered with enemies and parts to pick up. You had pretty much the whole level at your disposal aside from maybe some bomb walls blocking your path, and one of the most fun things about the game was managing your time and resources in the massive worlds. Even though the 30-day limit was more than enough time to get all the parts and escape, it was still so thrilling to multitask in all the levels and try to get everything done as quickly as possible. You weren't really in any danger of running out of time, but it was fun to challenge yourself, and that was part of what made it so exciting to me. Enter Pikmin 2, which has some very similar seeming levels on the surface, but that are very different from a design perspective. Pikmin 1 had mostly wide open spaces to explore, but Pikmin 2 has levels that are much more closed off. The best blanket term I have to describe the levels is hallway-like, with each level feeling more like a series of corridors to traverse rather than a world to explore. There are some open spaces, but compared to the first Pikmin, everything is much more claustrophobic and restricted. If it was a network of hallways to explore rather than a world to explore, that would be fine by me, just a slight adjustment, but it's really not that either. Pikmin 1's worlds weren't just open in a sense that they didn't have as tight of walls, they were open in a sense that you could collect all their parts in, more or less, any order you wanted to. They hardly even felt like levels, they were really just worlds, playgrounds even, and you could tackle each one however you pleased. You can't go anywhere you want in Pikmin 2's worlds though, at least not how you would expect, and here's an example to help me explain. You'll enter a new level hoping to get lots of treasure, but then you realize you can't really go anywhere except for down one path. You take your only option, travel that way for a while, then find some yellow Pikmin. You could use the yellow Pikmin to break a couple electric walls or something, but everything else is underwater, so you need to take the yellow Pikmin to another level, break another electric wall, and unlock blue Pikmin so you can finally do some stuff in the level. The levels do kind of open up eventually, but by that point you've already done half the stuff there is to do, and it's still way more restricted than in the first game. Instead of exploring levels in Pikmin 2, you mostly just open up the levels as you get new Pikmin and their unique abilities. You're not multitasking and managing resources with each level, you're solving a big puzzle. Again, there is some of the more Pikmin 1-esque level design, but Pikmin 2 is still very different. It doesn't feel like a handful of worlds to explore, it feels like a group of levels to open up in a specific order. You're not managing your time and testing your own skills anymore, you're completing a series of tasks that the developers put out for you to complete. I realize that, from a design perspective, this could be viewed as an improvement to Pikmin, and that this this is all really a matter of opinion, but I think Pikmin 2's world design is less fun, less satisfying, and above all, less Pikmin than in the game that came before it. Okay, so the worlds are too restricted in my taste, and you can't do things in any order you want to all the time, but it's still Pikmin at its core. Maybe a little tainted, but it's still an expanded and better game than Pikmin 1, right? Well, not exactly. You see, you need 10,000 Pokos worth of treasure to beat the game, and most treasures are only worth 100 Pokos or so if you're lucky, and there isn't anywhere close to that amount of treasure in the main levels, so where does the majority of treasure come from? Those of you who have played Pikmin 2 before know that it comes from these guys, the caves. There's a small handful of treasure scattered across the measly 3 main worlds of Pikmin 2 before you beat the game, but the majority of level progress in Pikmin 2 leads to these caves, of which there are a few in each world. You find their entrances on the surface, then jump down into them with your Pikmin. Each cave is a slightly randomized little gauntlet of enemies, obstacles, and treasure, with several sublevels that you and your Pikmin jump down into, collecting treasure until you reach the bottom and get shot out in a geyser. I say slightly randomized because each sublevel has the same treasure and enemies, just rearranged and with slightly different hallways every time you play. It's really not important to the game though, and it doesn't affect the review in the slightest, so sorry to waste your time talking about cave randomization. Anyway, I wasn't too fond of the more restricted A to B level design of Pikmin 2's main worlds, so you can probably guess how I feel about these caves. I hate them. If the areas in Pikmin 2 feel a little bit more like levels than worlds, these caves are actual levels. The main worlds feel like split up hallways to progress through, these are actual split up hallways. And it would be fine if the caves in Pikmin 2 were relatively few and far between, like if they were only part of a challenge mode or something, but nope. You spend the majority of the game and collect the majority of your treasure in these caves, and it drastically brings down the experience for me. Again, my dislike for linearity in Pikmin games is technically an opinion, but so is everything about a review unless the game is buggy or something, and I think that the caves are a bad design choice. You already don't have a day limit in Pikmin 2, so the only time restriction you have is within each day. But when you're in the caves, time doesn't pass for some reason, so any sense of urgency is completely lost. As I played, I would instinctively think, oh, I better hurry up, no time to waste. But then I'd remember that, outside of wasting storage space from my capture card, I had no reason to hurry. I could take as much time as I needed, and that, in some ways, made the experience less fun. The caves are linear, and they take away the player's sense of urgency, but I do have one good thing to say about them, and that's that they bring a huge psychological effect into the game. I've probably said somewhere at some point that all of the Pikmin games provide an emotional roller coaster, and that's probably one of the best ways I can think of to describe the series. One minute you'll be all excited and adventure-filled for what's to come. The next minute you're peeking around each corner like a terrified little kid in the dark, or like me in the dark when I'm home alone. One minute you'll be screaming and wanting to destroy your console because you lost 80 Pikmin to one boss. The next minute you'll be celebrating a huge victory where you barely carried a valuable item back to base just in time before the sun went down. You really feel a surprisingly wide variety of emotions in Pikmin, and Pikmin 2's caves can really bring out this aspect of the series. The caves can be really challenging gauntlets, as there's no way to get back lost Pikmin while you're inside, and very often, maybe just a little too often for my tastes, you'll feel overwhelmed and discouraged by the number of Pikmin you're losing. Despite how identical and renewable Pikmin are, they're still your little buddies and you're sad to see them go. Some of the caves are really long and give you the option to leave part of the way through, and the first time I experienced this was in a cave called the Shower Room. The shower room is a dim, damp cave, mostly made up of dark blue tiles. I went down into it for a while, then I suddenly hit a sublevel that was nothing like the others. This level was full of dirt and sparse vegetation just barely staying alive, with little patches of sunlight shining through holes in the ceiling. A faint trickle of water came in a pipe, subtly referencing the cave's theme, and there wasn't a single enemy or piece of treasure but one tiny leaf. At one end of the sublevel sat a geyser to the surface, and at the other end was a hole leading deeper into the cave. Of course I kept going deeper because only a total wuss would bail out, but this sublevel really evoked some surprisingly deep feelings for me. When life doesn't give us enough treasure on the surface, we hide in our own little caves, desperately trying to find a glimmer of treasure hope. We dig deeper, and at some point we reach a crossroads, a choice. Do we ride up to the sunlit surface on the geyser of truth, or dive deeper into the caves of self-deprecation, even though we know deep down that we must one day return to the bright, unforgiving land we sought refuge from? I definitely took the game too seriously, but you get the point I'm trying to make. Okay, you probably don't, but for a game about little alien people ordering carrot men around a mysterious planet, the caves in Pikmin 2 can strike quite a sense of emotion in the player. Those emotions are often negative and filled with thoughts of linearity, but emotions nonetheless. And on that interesting note, let's wrap up this review. On the one hand, Pikmin 2 is a linear, split-up, even un-Pikmin-y experience at times, but on the other hand, the more objective hand, it's a more polished and tightly designed experience than Pikmin 1 by a long shot. This is where it's gonna get a little controversial though, because I think Pikmin 1 is more fun than Pikmin 2. It may be a little rougher around the edges than Pikmin 2, but as the founder of the series, its open levels give a Pikmin experience in its purest form. Pikmin 2 is much more linear, and it has those gosh darn caves, so I prefer Pikmin to Pikmin 2. I think it's more fun, more rewarding, just more Pikmin than Pikmin 2. But, since this is technically a review, I can't in good conscience give Pikmin 2 a lower score than Pikmin. It's less fun to me, but from a design perspective, Pikmin 2 is just a better game. As much as I dislike the intricate A to B puzzle style opening of Pikmin 2's levels in this type of game, they're very well designed. As a game, I have to say that Pikmin 2 is an improvement to 1. But as a Pikmin game, Pikmin 2 is a pretty hefty step in the wrong direction. Pikmin 2 may be a better designed game than Pikmin, but it's very linear and I don't like the caves, so that's why I call Pikmin 2 Pikmin's growing pains. As a game it isn't inherently worse, but for the series in general, Pikmin 2 just isn't what I would want or expect. They may have made its levels linear for no reason, but I still think it's a more polished game than the first Pikmin, so I give it an 8 out of 10, just 1 point higher than Pikmin 1. As we leave the second installment in the Pikmin series, a new challenger approaches 9 years in the distance, and it's where things get interesting. Pikmin 2 left the series in a bit of a tight spot, but all hope is not lost for Pikmin. Pikmin 2 is not only the pain of the mainline Pikmin series, but the growing pains, and its growth will not be forgotten. Will Pikmin 3 take what Pikmin 2 changed about Pikmin and somehow perfect the more linear Pikmin formula, or will the series truly die in its third installment? Is the third time really the charm? Find out in Part 3.